Hello, this is my audience for my persuasive speech. Hello, class. My name is Michael Rohlater, and this is my persuasive speech. I will be talking about the NCAA and if their athletes should be paid for playing sports in the NCAA. The NCAA is currently worth about $11 billion and grosses over $100 million per year. So it's a huge organization, and you would think that it would be fair for some of that money to go back to players. With all the current scandals going on with Adidas and Nike, there's plenty of information out about the NCAA and paying its athletes. That is not too hard to find credible information. And just as a basketball and football fan, it's not great to see some of those athletes not being paid for their services. The NCAA student athletes dedicate countless hours to their sport. It's almost like a full-time job, so it's only fair that they see some type of compensation for their services and their work on the field or on the court, especially with the NCAA being worth so much money. So I'll be talking about athletes pretty much working a full-time job plus more hours for the NCAA, as well as the money kind of dispersion and how student athletes could be fit into that equation, and then lastly, how student athletes actually are marketing the NCAA for the NCAA. So NCAA athletes put an average of 36 hours per week into their sport, and during peak season, that could be up to about 60 hours, which is a full-time job is about 40 hours, so even an average student athlete is pretty much working a full-time job for the NCAA. There are no off-seasons for really any athletes, so it interferes with classes they could take. Really not a lot of opportunities for internships or jobs in the summer, so they're kind of sacrificing their future a little bit to play their sport, and they're giving up chances to broaden their horizons and gain experience if they don't make it into the professional sport of their choosing, which only about 1% or less than 1% of student athletes actually go on to play professionally. If you're an athlete, typically you don't have any control of your schedule. Your classes are set for you, practice times are set for you, so you don't have a lot of flexibility in your schedule, which negatively affects you in college because you're kind of regimented with everything you do, and then it affects you negatively outside of college because you don't learn key time management skills that other college students learn fairly quickly. So time commitments aren't the only thing athletes are giving up. The NCAA makes about 100 million or grosses 100 million a year, like I mentioned. So money is also a key thing that the athletes are giving up. The revenue of the NCAA and the salaries of athletic directors and coaches is continuously rising and growing, and coaches and athletic directors and other faculty members just keep getting raises and raises, and the athletes are seeing none of that money, which is entirely unfair. The NCAA benefits off the student athlete's likeness, mainly pertains to the big sports like basketball and football, where fans will see a face and they know who that is and what team they play for, and they'll buy a jersey or other little memorabilia, and the student or the college and the NCAA benefit off that, but that student who's kind of marketing for them isn't really seeing any of that. And in 2017, the NCAA officially became a billion-dollar business. And out of the four major sports, NFL, NBA, NHL, and MLB, the NCAA is actually gaining ground on the NHL. So if the NCAA can approach a professional league's revenue, then you would think that the student athletes would be paid accordingly, or at least benefit accordingly, because the NHL athletes are obviously getting paid for what they do. Coaches and faculties are continuously getting raises and being paid millions and millions. Out of the 5 highest paid NCAA football coaches, the average is 7.3 million, and the same for NFL is 9.7 million. So there's a very little disparity between the two, except obviously it's college versus NFL. So if college coaches can approach professional coaches' salaries, then you would, again, it would only be rational that the players would see some type of benefit there. There are 31 schools in the Power 5 conferences that make over $100 million per year in revenue. And the out of all the Power 5 schools, the lowest is $64 million. So universities are making millions and millions off these athletes, and obviously they're paying their coaches and their faculty, but they're not paying, or at least some type of compensation for the people that are actually making it happen on the court. The players are the reason for the product, whether that product is basketball, volleyball, football, golf, whatever it is. So these sporting events are becoming more and more popular, and it shows in the advertising costs. For March Madness, an average 30-second advertisement is $1.5 million to have your advertisement be put in that spot. And the same for the FBS football championship was $1.2 million, and for a full sponsorship it was between $12 and $4 million. So companies are paying millions and millions of dollars to have their advertisements at these games, and it just shows how popular, especially basketball and football, are becoming, where companies are paying millions for their name to be at those events. Athletics is also kind of a free marketing for the universities, and they use it to bump up admissions, draw high school seniors to their school, and like I said, it's free. It's not really the main goal of athletics, but it's kind of a side goal, I guess, is to draw more students. TV exposure and success in sports there's a direct correlation to an increase in admission rates. After the 2011 football championship, it was Auburn versus Oregon, and Auburn won, and their admissions rose 16%, and even the loser of that game, Oregon, the admissions rose 10%. This is known as the Flutie effect, after Doug Flutie led Boston College in 1984 on a pretty historic football run, and their admissions just took off and has continued to grow pretty much since that date. So that's why they correlate success in sports and higher admissions rates. Events, any sporting event, football, basketball, are just hours and hours of free coverage for that school, where their mascot and their colors and their name are on ESPN or Fox Sports or whatever it is, just for hours at a time. So plenty of fans, and football fans, basketball fans, whatever it is, they see that school for hours at a time. And so a statistic is, after Clemson won the 2016 football championship, the next year's freshman class was polled, and 55% said they saw the game, and that was a reason that they eventually ended up at Clemson. And for Alabama, who's obviously a football powerhouse, if you pay attention to that, their attendance has risen consistently since 2001. So it's more than doubled since 2001, which is pretty staggering. Even small schools can benefit off this with the quote-unquote Cinderella story. A pretty famous one is Florida Gulf Coast University. In 2013, they beat a 2 seed as a 15 seed in March Madness, and their admissions grew 27%. Pretty high number. And they also got a nickname, Dunk City, which is very easy to market, and it's all over the place, T-shirts, hats. So they gained a lot of free publicity off that one win. So my main points today were sports is a full-time job, and student-athletes are giving up a lot of their time and sacrificing things outside of their sports, and they're not really seeing the benefit or the compensation for that sacrifice. There's a large money disparity where universities are making millions of dollars off these athletes, and not kicking it back to the people that are making it happen. And lastly, sports equals free marketing, essentially. So the schools are using their athletes as marketing tools and benefiting off the students' likeness, and the students are not seeing any of the benefit of that. So thank you for listening. I hope I provided some information about the NCAA and paying college athletes, and I hope you gained a little bit from this speech. Thank you.